Just as the sun starts to reach the horizon and dusk fully overtakes you, you look back to the north and you see the plumage of smoke rising from Stilben's house. You think maybe he was cooking, realize that that's not true. It couldn't be true. He's too careful for that. You realize Jafar's forces have reached him, and you realize he's probably already dead.
Jasmine's eyes go wide in horror as she realizes just how far Jafar has gone and the lines he's now willing to cross.
How far he's willing to go to stop you or get you back.
Her eyes soften into regret almost and sadness, and she looks at Raja and looks back up at the plume of smoke and goes, Stilben, I'm so sorry.
The hackles on Raj's fur raise, and he looks to you like, questioningly, are we going back or are we moving forward? He growls, a low growl.
Jasmine turns her back to the plume of smoke and continues on the path that they had been traveling, picking up the pace a little bit this time.
Welcome to Melting Plot, an actual play podcast that features a cast of characters randomly selected from popular fiction. Each season, our heroes attempt to survive an apocalyptic scenario to find out how their characters might handle themselves at the end of the world. If you're new to Melting Plot, I recommend that you start at the beginning of the season so you can experience the story the way the players do. This is Season 2, and Middle-earth is in peril. Frodo was unable to destroy the One Ring, and Sauron's army covered the world in hatred and darkness. What little hope remains is tied to the fate of a few heroes willing to resist. But will it be enough? The Old Forest Path cuts into Mirkwood and runs east-west, all the way through Mirkwood and to the Anduin River. You descend into the forest. The forest is dark because the trees have overgrown, and they claim parts of the Old Forest Path because it's less maintained than it used to be. And as you walk into the forest, you feel its weight start to bear down on you. The darkness here is nearly complete. You have no torches, and you realize by the time you get too far in to turn back how dark it is here. And you realize now that you have mostly been following Raja. Where Raja used to follow you, he can see better in the dark, and he kind of picks his way through the path. And at this point, even as you turn back, you realize the light is gone, and you don't even know if you're on the path anymore. You continue forward for several additional minutes until this kind of gloom, this dread, this fear start to overtake you. To your surprise, you see a small pinprick of light that shines through the forest. Perhaps a torch or a campfire. It bounces this red-yellow light across the trees, and as you approach it, you can see that it's some kind of small civilization. It halos the trees in that light. You can hear voices up ahead. It's some maybe 5 minutes away. You can hear laughter. You can hear maybe soft music. You aren't aware of any settlement, any civilization on the Old Forest Road. Perhaps it's new. You've also not traveled this road before.
Jasmine, keeping Stilben's fate in mind, is both wary of approaching this settlement because she doesn't want to put the people there at risk, and because she doesn't know how much she would be putting herself at risk, not knowing what kinds of settlement this is. Can she get close enough to see them staying in the dark, but not getting close enough for them to see her?
She can certainly try.
Raja, do you think you can tell if they're people or not people?
Raja creeps into the forest. You can see that if you continue traveling along the Old Forest Road, eventually you'll reach this settlement. But Raja takes the forest itself and disappears into the trees. So first of all, I need a stealth check for Raja. It's average, but Raja's injured, so give him a setback die.
Failure and 2 threat.
The threat is that you don't know what happens to Raja. The failure is that he doesn't return.
Jasmine waits half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. And when Raja doesn't come back, she starts worrying. This wasn't supposed to be a hunting trip. This was just supposed to be him checking out the town. And she can't go any way but forward at this point. She has no light source. Raja hasn't returned, so she slowly and as stealthily as she can heads towards the town.
What you thought was a town is really just a series of small buildings and one large building. It's nestled into the Old Forest Road, so the road kind of runs east-west, and then on the north side of the road, connected to the road and with kind of a horseshoe inlet, is this small village. You appear to see a handful of people. Probably the full complement of this small settlement is a couple dozen. On the left, you see an inn. And there are a lot of horses that have been tied up to this inn as if this is a kind of a common travel spot. You see a big sign over maybe like an archway leading into the settlement itself that says Forestside. There are people in the village kind of nestled around a communal bonfire right in the center. You see maybe a blacksmith off to the right-hand side. It's been closed down, but you see his pavilion, and then a couple of other small buildings. You see a small something of a shack off in the distance as well. That probably serves as maybe a general storage for the city or this village. It's very small, but it seems to attract travelers that move along the Old Forest Road because the music that you can hear coming from the inn is jolly, it's loud. And the couple of people that are sitting around the bonfire, maybe a woman who's bringing a couple of bowls of stew out to what appear to be militia or guardsmen. They're wearing what you assume to be their owned armor and weapons. So probably militia, that's what they seem to be. Maybe they have sashes of the color of the town or something like that. You don't see Raja, but you see one man who's kind of looking off into the forest. He's kind of pointing and staring, and he seems to be speaking to someone else. They don't notice you on approach. The other thing you see here, north of all of the other buildings, there's maybe a tiny path that has kind of been cut out to this clearing, maybe 10, 15 feet back away from the town. And in that clearing is one large post, like maybe a tree trunk. In fact, it might be just a tree trunk that they've kind of cut all the limbs off of and serves as a big post. There are these huge chains attached to the post itself, big manacles at the end of those chains, and sitting on the ground back to the post, kind of within these manacles, is a very thin-looking man. Without getting closer, you can't tell much about this person, but clearly a criminal of some sort. It's just odd how big his bindings are.
The music actually would make Jasmine feel somewhat better. So she would walk into the town, kind of like trying to keep her hood up, stay as indiscriminate as possible. And the two guards folk who were pointing out into the forest, she would wonder and kind of hope that maybe they're pointing at Raja. So she wanders over that way and stands next to them. Excuse me, what are you pointing at?
Your presence startles them, and they both kind of turn, and one's like, "Whoa! Hey, lass! What are you doing here? It's kind of dark for you to be traveling alone."
Not alone.
You appear to be alone. What was the question? I'm sorry, he scratches his head. I don't really remember what you said.
What did you see out in the forest? What were you pointing at?
Oh, it was a big cat of some sort. It was wandering about. We sent Bargerman after it.
You sent a what after it?
Bargerman. He doesn't really know his place, so he does whatever we tell him to do. And the other man laughs. Yep, he'll probably not come back.
You what? And Jasmine will actually run off towards where they were pointing and start calling out for Raja.
Hey, wait, are you,
She doesn't listen.
Start calling for Raja. Sometime thereafter, Raja comes kind of tearing out from the forest with like these brambles and vines just everywhere. Like Raja had gotten stuck somewhere and wasn't able to really pull himself out, got caught, wasn't quiet, and this is what alerted the guards' attention. But as Raja now kind of walks into the clearing of the town, just covered in this these brambles, the guards both pull their weapons. You hear the swords unsheath.
Oh, Raja, what have you gotten yourself into? And immediately starts, trying to pull the brambles off of him.
What the hell is a Raja?
I told you I wasn't alone.
That's yours? You own this?
Yes, he's my friend.
Well,
He kind of scratches his head, resheathes his sword. Sometime later, Bargeman comes back, and he's just covered in brambles. A young kid with, pocked face, and he's got, a short sword where the other men are using maybe more military swords.
said he's yours?
Yes.
Is he tame?
Yes?
He looks to the
he
other
listens to me.
Well, can't right turn a lady and her pet away, can we? To hell with the rules. Is he hungry?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we got some scraps over here by the fire. Feel free to enjoy the inn, if you'd like. If you need a place to stay or a hot meal, you can stay with us out by the fire.
Do you have any doctors here?
You're looking for a healer? Yeah? We don't even have a building.
I thought I would check.
And then Bargeman's like, we got the inn, and he's like,
That's a shithole. Ain't got no healers here.
Okay.
Do have a bit of a, what would you call him? Conundrum, sir. Got a bit of a conundrum of a man.
right over there, he says, and he points at the man attached to, the tree. He says,
Not sure if he's a doctor, but he's definitely the smartest of us. So, he might be able to point you in the right direction.
Why is he in chains?
Ask him. He's the one that wanted to be there.
You said a conundrum? That sounds fairly accurate, then.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll go find some dinner at the inn, then. Thank you.
Right, enjoy it. They don't take to animals, but you can stay out here with us.
he points at Raja.
Okay, thank you.
Just as you're entering the inn, you see the man kind of throw Raja a scrap of something. The inn is a lively place. The air inside it is close from pipe tobacco, the smoke of it kind of rising through the building itself. It's kind of got a sweet, almost vanilla aroma to it. And the light here is this kind of soft yellow, very comforting. You hear some music from a troupe playing off some other part of the tavern itself. You can see that the main room here has many, many tables and is almost full. In the very back, opposite the door you came in on, you can see the counter space where there are a couple of bartenders or innkeepers kind of working the bar. One of them is a man, the other's a woman, likely a husband and wife team. By the size of this building from the outside, you assume there's a common room as well.
Jasmine walks up to the main counter where the husband and wife are and asks how much it is for a room.
That'll be 1 coin for the night.
Jasmine pulls out one of the coins from her bag.
Common room is just through that door there, he points.
Do you have spiced cider?
Spiced cider is our specialty. From this giant cask behind him, he kind of uncorks it and pours a large mug of it. Sets it down for you, pours another one, sets it. Can you bring this to Bruce?
Who's Bruce?
Bruce, he's the man tied to the stump outside.
Oh, the conundrum?
I don't know what that means, miss.
Yeah, I can bring it. It's fine.
He has a small plate of perishable food, maybe like potato carrots or maybe like a leg of some meat, maybe a rabbit or, a bird. And he sets that there as well and says, am I bringing this as well? He's got to be hungry.
Sure.
As you walk out of the inn, it occurs to you that they don't treat that man like a prisoner. He's chained up, but, they seem to care more about him than he appears to care about himself.
As Jasmine walks out the front door, she would call Raja over to her. Raja, can you come with me for a moment?
Raja stumbles towards you again on the wounded leg and also now the brambles that are kind of just been tying him there. He looks a mess. But he happily trots over to you and walks with you to this man. The post that he's tied to was once a tree, and the canopy of the tree has been cut off to allow some sunlight down, in this case moonlight, and it kind of halos the clearing that this man is in and gives you a good, clean picture of him. Bruce, can you describe yourself, please?
You see a relatively small man. He's got spectacles on, his head is down, and he's just sitting on the ground with his back up against this tree. Kind of one leg extended and one bent underneath him. And you see these large chains wrapping around this tree, but they're far bigger than his wrists. They're 2-3 times the size of his own wrists. He could easily slip in and out, but seems to just be choosing to leave his arms in the manacles.
As you raise your head, you can see a small woman walking towards you. Jasmine, can you please describe yourself and Raja?
Jasmine is fairly short in stature. She's fairly dark-skinned, very tanned. Her long black hair is held back by several pieces of cloth, of fabric that she's tied it back with. She is wearing what looks to be riding clothes on top of some very beaten up, nice-looking fabric from some fancy clothes. She has riding boots on as well, although it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense since she has, following slightly behind her, a large tiger that doesn't look rideable. So the tiger comes up to about Jasmine's waist. It's a very muscular orange beast with black stripes and some white on its face. It seems docile at the moment. It seems like it's following Jasmine almost as a companion more than stalking her. And as if to confirm that, Jasmine actually reaches back and scritches behind the tiger's ears as she approaches Bruce with food and drink.
Bruce looks up as you approach, and he notices the tiger behind you, and for a minute you can see just kind of alert in his eyes, but then he, I guess just with a lot of intention, takes this deep breath, and you can almost hear him exhale through his nose. And he closes his eyes a little bit as you continue to walk forward toward him.
Excuse me, are you Bruce?
I am? Yeah.
I have food and some cider for you.
Oh, Merrick is so kind to me. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this.
You're welcome. What is on your face?
Oh, these. These are, you're familiar with glass. So these are just little pieces of glass. Many people would consider them to be a bit distorted. You can't clearly see through them, but for me, it actually helps me to see quite a bit.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, no, here, try them. Bruce pulls his hand out of the chains, takes his glasses off, and hands them to Jasmine.
Jasmine, with a very confused look on her face, puts them on and looks around, and she's like, I can't see it all with these. These make everything really blurry.
Yes, that's a bit of what I normally see. It's just blurry.
So it undoes the blurry for you?
It undoes the blurry for me. That's right. And he'll take the glasses back and put them back on, and he's going to place his arm back in the shackle.
Raja approaches you and gets really close to your face, right? Like you can smell his breath as he stares directly into your eyes, through your glasses, as if he's interested in what's on your face.
He's friendly. He won't hurt you.
Animals are always a little bit unpredictable, though. I would appreciate some space.
Raja, back up.
Thank you.
Are you going to eat?
Oh, yes, of course. We'll pull the cider up and plate, and he just begins to sip and eat, just at a very casual pace.
Jasmine will sit down and drink her spiced cider and just kind of stare at Bruce. The description of Conundrum is growing on her because she's very confused as to why he keeps putting his arms through these gigantic shackles and wears glass on his face.
Yeah, and the shackles are pointless for him. So is the tree he's tied to, because he's not actually tied to it. He's just sitting next to it.
Why do you keep putting your hands in the shackles? They're much too big for you.
Oh, I suppose a lot of people stay in shackles maybe for the same reason, and that's to protect others. So we lock up criminals to protect others, and so I thought it would be good for me to protect others as well.
What are you protecting them from?
I'm not exactly sure, but trust me,
It doesn't make any sense. How can you protect other people from something that you could just slip right out of?
I know that just I can black out from time to time and bad things happen, and I would hate it for something to happen to Forestside here, and so I've decided to stay out of the village and just protect everyone as best as I can. And I'm just gonna stay by this tree. I'm gonna stay in these chains.
But you're not in them.
Oh, sorry. He's gonna stop eating for a moment and put his arms back through the chains. He's just gonna kind of push them up all the way to his shoulders so that he can continue to eat and drink. Yeah, I mean, I could get out if I needed right now, but just with the laws of expansion and energy transfer and all that, it's just important that I don't unnecessarily put any strain on these chains prior to needing them.
Jasmine looks completely confused right now, talking about laws of stuff and things. She doesn't even say anything. She just looks at you completely confused.
Raja does a huge yawn.
Bruce reaches through and he just kind of adjusts his spectacles a little bit and looks Jasmine straight in the eye and says, enough about me. What brings you to Forestside?
I'm on a journey to find help for my father.
Oh, is your father in trouble?
He's ill, I think. I'm not sure. I need a doctor that I can trust.
Oh, what is it that he is ill with?
I don't know. He's not. I don't think he's sick like a disease or a cold. He isn't himself.
I understand what that's like.
I don't know what to do. I need to find somebody who can help him. So I'm leaving home.
There's no one that can help you from your home?
No one I can trust. There's a person who wants my father out of the way and has a lot of resources to prevent me from helping my father.
Your father must be a very important man. How is it that a young woman such as yourself makes so many enemies so quickly? No one you can trust?
I probably shouldn't talk about this that much. I don't want to put anybody else in danger. If you're done, I can take the dishes back inside.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I would appreciate that. Please tell Elmeric that he's really outdone himself and just thank him for taking care of me. It's very appreciated.
It was nice to meet you, Bruce.
You as well.
You get up and you stir Raja from what apparently was a fairly deep slumber, and Raja kind of startles awake and then plods back over towards the inn with you, and then kind of at your direction goes back to the fire instead, the bonfire in the center. The guards throw another scrap to Raja.
She would probably take a couple of minutes and try and pick out as many of the brambles as she could as well.
Sure. And I imagine that happened a lot during the scene with Bruce as well. You're kind of slowly cleaning Raja up, but Raja's just a mess. Back inside the inn, the night continues as it does. Soon the music starts to die down. People start to head back to the common room or back to their homes or on the road or wherever it is that they disperse to, and you end up in the common room as well, which feels so strange because you're sharing a room with a half dozen other people. And as you bed down on this kind of straw cot, you realize how good you've had it and how your life has changed. One of the men that's sitting in the room with you begins snoring very loudly and disturbs your sleep constantly. But there is some ease in being around people that aren't trying to kill you or even find you. Morning comes. The room has largely cleared as most working class or travelers take to the road fairly early, but you as a softened noble don't tend to. So when you wake, you kind of stretch the crick out of your neck and realize how unfortunate your sleeping arrangement had been. Walk out into the dining room of the inn, which by the way is called the Hop and Barley. Elmeric is working, but his wife is nowhere to be seen. Later, you'll discover that she's out collecting eggs from the chickens or preparing breakfasts. The only one in the dining room is a man who's apparently started drinking way early, and then another person kind of sitting with him trying to coax him out of his habits. And the man who's drinking says, "She ain't ever gonna get better. It's getting worse, man." And he takes a drink, and the other man's kind of trying to calm him down, like, "Yeah, but do you think it's proper to start drinking so early?" And he says, "She's not even responding. She's so hot to the touch. She just wakes up crying, or I don't think she's got long," he says.
Jasmine would thank Elmeric again for the food and lodging. And
You're very welcome.
she's not even going to try to lie about sleeping well last night. She's not going to say anything.
He doesn't even ask.
Yeah.
He knows what his arrangement
She
looks like.
She does feel like a sympathy towards the guy talking about whoever this lady or girl in his life is. And she kind of like walks closer slowly, trying to gauge whether he's just looking for solace in the bottom of his cup or if he's looking to talk to anybody about it.
So you kind of walk into his conversation where he says, "We were able to pull the thorn out, but it's like damage has been done."
What happened, if you don't mind me asking?
You can see now the red of his eyes as he's just been lost in sorrow. It's Madeline. She was out in the forest one day, came back feeling not right, and just can't. She's not even responding anymore.
Well, I think the guards told me that Bruce might know of a doctor. Have you talked to him?
Bruce don't want to help anyone. Bruce just wants to sit and be by himself.
Maybe I'll go talk to him for you.
If you think that'll help, by all means.
I mean, it's worth a try, right?
He drinks deeply from his cup.
Jasmine takes her leave and heads back to see Bruce, calling Raja.
How does Jasmine find Bruce this morning?
So as Jasmine is approaching, you see that the chains are just laying there, and Bruce isn't anywhere to be found. There's just an empty tree. But it's not very long before Bruce is kind of walking out of the forest. His hair is all wet, and he's kind of drying himself off. He's just wearing kind of these brown, tattered clothes. Look very, very worn and very poorly cared for.
Good morning, Bruce.
Oh, good morning.
The guards said that you might know of a doctor. There's a man whose maybe wife or daughter, it sounds like she got pricked with a thorn, and she's not doing so great. So do you know of anybody who might be able to help her?
I mean, I don't really know any doctors nearby, but you said she was pricked by a thorn, and now she's sick?
That's what it sounded like. He's kind of drunk, so I'm not sure he had the details right, but that was what I overheard.
That's unusual. Any idea what the plant looked like?
No, that was pretty much all the information I heard.
What are the symptoms that she's experiencing?
It sounds like she's not responding to anything.
Not respond? Unconscious?
I don't know. I didn't get any more details. Do you think you can help her?
I simply don't have enough information to be able to tell what I might be able to do or not. Tell you what, Bruce is going to face the tree. He's going to be putting the shackles back on his wrists. You go get that man and bring him out here, and we can talk a little bit.
I'll see if I can get him out here. Jasmine heads back to the inn. She approaches the drunken fellow. So it sounds like Bruce might be able to help you if you'll go out there.
Bruce is gonna help me.
He said that he would at least listen.
Throws his hands up. Well, what else is there? He takes his now what appears to be a new cup, maybe half full. Looks sad. Looks like he cares deeply, but this kind of traumatic experiences, weighed a lot on him and really all the families of Forestside. And the drunk comes with you to Bruce, where Bruce is now kind of fully in his chains once again. The drunk stumbles forward, sits cross-legged right in front of you.
Oh, good, you're here. There was some mention of a thorn and maybe a sickness. I was hoping to get just a few more details. And Bruce is kind of nervously shifting around. He's kind of pulling out these scrolls and these notebooks that he has of different things, variety of different sketches of plants and flowers, and pages just filled up with descriptions and writings that he's just getting out of this pack he has near the tree.
Well, what do you want to know? He takes a deep drink.
What sort of you said you pulled a thorn? Did you save that thorn? Can I see that thorn?
You're goddamn right, I saved that thorn. He pulls it out of his pouch, and he throws it at your feet, and he says, "That's the son of a bitch right there." And he kind of leans back and falls over, and then stumbles himself back to his seating position. What you're looking at is a kind of a deep spined thorn attached to a stem, and somewhere farther down the stem you see a bright yellow flower with 4 petals.
Oh, millweed. These thorns are harmless, but did she have any yellowing around her mouth?
What do you mean they're harmless? Yeah, so what?
Well, so you see, the millweed is actually quite poisonous, and if you eat the flowers along with the berries, it can really do a number on you. And so the issue is we're going to need to induce vomiting, and we're going to have to see if we can get some other plants to really neutralize this poison that's in her.
Saying it ain't the thorn, it's the flower.
It's not the thorn, but the thorn.
What do you need? Yeah, he starts to he rubs his eyes, starts to stand up. He's falling back. What do you need? And he spins around and then kind of has to reorient himself to look at you.
Jasmine would try and kind of help prop him up, keep him steady.
Raja's sleeping somewhere.
Bruce adjusts his spectacles and he kind of saying, no, and he's flipping through all these different pages, and finally he arrives at a drawing of a certain plant, and he goes, here it is, and he rips it out of this bundle of pages that he has, and he hands it to this drunk fellow and says, this is the plant you need. If you travel south a little ways, you should find a meadow that may have some of them. I'm gonna need, I would say, to be safe, 5 of these plants if you can pull them up. I need the complete root though.
Is there a drawing?
Yeah.
He turns it upside down, right side up, clearly can't read, sees the picture and says, 5 or 7 of them. I'm gonna do, and then he kind of spits up a little bit, this kind of half vomit, a little bit on the page itself, and then kind of stumbles down to his side and kind of struggles himself back up and then falls over. He looks now with the paper's kind of all crumpled, crinkled a little bit, maybe ripped. And he says, How many do you need?
I'm gonna need 5. Make sure that you get the roots though. You have to pull it up. You're gonna have to dig around it a little bit. Otherwise the roots will detach in the ground and it'll be of no use to me.
Right, okay, I'll get all the roots. He starts to stumble out again, and about halfway out the town you see that he's dropped the paper and he disappears somewhere into the forest. It's unlikely he's gonna be able to recover those.
Bruce, his head just drops and he sighs. Pulls his hands out of the manacles. He goes, he uncrumples the page on the ground and kind of dusts it off a little bit, and pulls it back. He walks over to the tree, looks at Jasmine. I know you have enough trouble of your own, but do you think you might be able to find this plant?
How long of a journey is it?
If you travel south about an hour and a half or so, there should be a bit of a clearing through the trees, a sort of meadow. There'll be a lot of tall grass. That's not what you're looking for, though. I've done a sketch. I've come across this plant before. It's actually a very, very interesting specimen. It has a lot of sort of chemical properties that are really fascinating to work with. But it does grow entirely in the shade. So it will be on the edge of the meadow. It's likely that it won't be that far from a creek too, so you may be able to find that as a way to kind of navigate to the meadow and hopefully narrow down where this thing would grow. I will need 5 of them. You're going to want to tug on it just a little bit and dig around it to pull the entire root up. I need the root.
Got it. Yeah, I'll help. I think at this point, Jasmine kind of has an extra amount of sympathy to anybody who has like a sick family member. So Jasmine nods and takes the paper. I'll be back soon, 5, with the roots. And gives a nod and then heads off.
Jasmine, you disappear into the South Forest and quickly begin looking for signs of this plant. Since you can read, you can get some helpful information from Bruce's notes. His thoughts are actually very well collected and well presented as well. So what you're looking for is dawnshade, and dawnshade grows in a, what it says is it grows in a clearing some distance out and has some markers as well, like it grows near streams and forests, grows up from the sides of rocks, and it's called dawnshade because in the mornings it opens into kind of a purple bloom and then closes up in the afternoon and evening. So at this point in time, it may be easier to identify. So I need a survival check from you because you have the notes. You can throw 2 boost dice in it. Otherwise, it's a hard check.
And since Raja is better at survival than me, he's going to help me out with this. Okay, so that's going to be 4 success.
I was nervous there.
Raja tracks his way through the forest and kind of, you get the sense, knows the general area that he's looking for, and you're looking out as well, kind of continuing to read the notes, and soon you find this small outcropping where around this kind of massive boulder you see these plants starting to grow out from the earth and out from around the boulder, and they've all got this kind of bright purple flower, and you dig them out, which is actually not as easy as Bruce had suggested because the roots are growing from underneath the rock itself, but soon you recover 5 of the plants and you're able to return back to the village. You return shortly after the drunk returns, and in this kind of massive despair because he was unable to find what he was looking for. In fact, he comes back in and gives Bruce like 3 like thistles or whatever, thinking that that's what he was looking for, and then feels even more in despair when Bruce says, nope, that's not what I'm looking for. You didn't find 5 of them, and you lost my paper. So this man is completely defeated.
Jasmine would walk up with all 5 of the plants and offer them. Are these what you were looking for?
Yes, that'll work. Give me one moment here. Bruce is scurrying through a bunch of his belongings, some different papers through his pack, and he eventually pulls out kind of this mortar and this small stone bowl, and he begins to take the roots and kind of mash them in there. He adds a little bit of water here and there to kind of make it into a paste. He kind of pulls out the skins of the roots and tosses them aside. And eventually you end up with this really pale yellow paste. He hands it to the drunk man. All right, you're going to need to induce vomiting and do that first, and then you're going to give this to her immediately. She's not going to like the taste, but it's very important that she takes all of it. It's going to help kind of coat her system and be able to flush the rest of the poison out that would stay otherwise.
I'll help.
Induce vomiting, yeah, I can do that.
I'll help him out.
All right.
And Jasmine will go with the drunk guy.
There's a series of kind of very small houses that are a part of Forestside, and they serve as like houses for multiple families. So he takes you into one, and it serves as the family house for himself and another family as well. So there's a lot of people here, but you quickly identify this little girl that's sitting or laying on a bed, kind of propped up on a pillow, and there's a woman, doesn't look like her mother, maybe the other member of the family, who's kind of like wiping the sweat from her brow and trying to give her water. And this little girl is kind of in and out of consciousness. She's speaking this nonsense, like just talking about things that don't make sense, or just babbling words like baby would. The day carries on with you applying this treatment. Bruce, I need an alchemy check from you.
Ooh.
Because you are essentially applying a treatment through Jasmine. So it's not her application of the treatment, but it's your knowledge of the treatment itself. So alchemy check, difficulty is average. Upgrade it once because you're not in direct contact and you don't know what they're applying to her, and throw 2 setback dice in.
Due to knack for it, I get to disregard 2 setback dice.
Of course you do.
Got a triumph and a success.
Jasmine, very quickly you see the treatment start to take effect. as early as this evening, you see her fever start to break, and she starts to maybe not come to full consciousness, but at least can react enough to ask for water. What do you want to do with the Triumph, Bruce?
I suppose the only thing that Bruce would really want to do with the Triumph is have a more speedy than expected recovery. Okay. So have it be more effective.
Sure.
Instead of recovering in a week, she recovers in a day, something like that.
By the time she sleeps, the drunk man, who's now sobered out entirely, says, "I hadn't seen her sleep like that in days. Look, it's as if she ain't ill at all." He walks with Jasmine back out to Bruce as he's talking to her and says, I don't know how to repay you for this. She seems to be on the mend. How'd you do that? You didn't even see her. You haven't even...
It was all the thorn. If you had saved that thorn, I wouldn't have been able to recognize the sort of poisoning that she was experiencing. I wouldn't have any sort of knowledge of how to neutralize the poison once it's in her system, of course. So really, it's your doing that saved her.
I thought you said you weren't a doctor. You're a doctor.
Oh, no, I'm not a doctor.
Nonsense. You saved her life. I owe you anything that you asked for. I'll give it to you. You don't deserve these chains either. You should come into the inn, grab a decent meal.
No, sir. I do deserve these chains. Thank you for your kindness. I have to stay here. This is where I have to stay.
As you wish.
He looks to Jasmine. Thank you too.
I'm glad I could help.
Bruce scrounges through all of his things, and he finds a writing utensil and just begins to jot down some notes, kind of filling out the rest of the description on this page that was ripped out for this plant. And he just begins to ask you all sorts of questions, Jasmine, that are very oddly specific. Like, all right, so how many hours had passed since you induced the vomiting, and then also gave her the remedy?
Maybe an hour and a half.
Maybe an hour and a half. How sure are you of that time?
Fairly sure.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
7?
7. Right, so mildly confident. And then how long was it before the fever broke?
It was another 2 or 3 hours.
Was it 2 or 3?
I'm not sure. We were inside. It was hard to see the sun.
All right, 2 to 3 hours. Again, 1 to 10, how confident are you?
Probably a 7 again.
Probably a 7. Will you say something other than 7?
I'm sure she got better. That's a 10.
Okay. Sure she got better. That's good. And this will kind of just go on for quite a while. He's just poking around with all these different questions.
At some point, Jasmine would go get food, take a quick break from the relentless questions, and get a meal and some more cider. Bruce, if you don't mind, do you know of any plants that might be able to help this? And she peels the bandage away from Raja's wound and shows it to him.
Oh my, what caused it?
He, took a tumble down a mountainside. I think he probably cut it on a rock.
Okay, so I'm no veterinarian. I don't really know tiger anatomy all that well. Presumably, we should be able to at least clean it and maybe bandage it. But I'd have to send you out for more flowers, and I can't think of a place that they are nearby that might actually help it heal. So I'm sorry.
I'll do whatever I need to find whatever flowers would help. I tried to bandage it up to stop the bleeding, but I don't know what to do other than that.
It's terribly far away to find those flowers. The only place that I can remember nearby would be near the Etten Moors, but of course that's going to be on the other side of the mountain range. It'd be very, very dangerous for you to travel that far, and it's hard to say how the wound might progress, or even how. I'm sorry. What was the tiger's name?
Raja.
How Raja would fare with that sort of journey. Probably at this point, it's best if we just clean it out with some water, see if you can bandage it, and try to.
I mean, I can try and bandage it again, but I don't think I did very well the first time.
Doesn't look like it now. I'm sorry, I don't have very much experience actually working with wounds. I mean, the girl, at least there was some poisoning, so there was something that I could deal with there, but this isn't really the sort of thing that I deal with. I'm sorry.
I appreciate the effort, at least. I'll get some water and see if I can clean this out. So Jasmine will go get water and probably some kind of hard liquor to try and clean the wound out, and brings it back over towards Bruce just so she can have his guidance if he has any pointers. And she starts carefully washing out Raja's wound, and she puts some of the liquor on the towel and presses it to the open cut.
When you press the alcohol to Raja's skin, it irritates Raja, and Raja roars in pain because this is not only a open wound, but a possibly infected wound that you're pressing alcohol to, and that roar just kind of echoes throughout the forest.
Bruce catches eyes with Raja immediately, and there's sort of this green tint that goes throughout his irises, and he closes his eyes and looks away. He starts to breathe heavily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please share us with your friends. One of the best ways that we can grow the show is through word of mouth. Another great way to support the show is through ratings and reviews. Every 5-star rating and review that we receive helps others to find the show. If you'd like to connect with us, you can shoot us an email at meltingplotpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @plotmelting. All music was written and produced by Zachary James Kolkman. Sound designed by Jeff Henders and Zachary James Kolkman. Jasmine from Aladdin was played by Rachel Kamstra. Bruce Banner was played by Zachary James Kolkman. And I am your host, Jeff Henders. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.